Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we are back again with another action-packed episode for you guys today. And this is our NFL Draft Recap Show. Of course, the first round happened last night. We still got the second round happening today at rounds 4 to 7, actually, on Saturday. Today is actually the second and third round. And there's a lot of good players left on the board, but we will discuss that later in the show. But, man, I said this yesterday, Anthony, about this being the most unpredictable draft I've ever witnessed. And, boy, it was very unpredictable. It was very exciting, actually.
Well, usually you have an idea of who's going, like, top 5. Like, you may not know specifically, like, oh, he's going third, but you're like, no, like he's going to go somewhere around here. Like, we had no idea. Like, yeah, we knew basically like a half hour before the draft that Myles Garrett was going to go number 1. But outside of that, it was basically just, we have these guys who are like top 5 talents, but there could have been trades. A lot of stuff could have happened. And after Myles Garrett, after the pretty much consensus number 1 player went off the board, then we had some fun. Then, well, you know what? I can say a lot of words. You are a San Francisco 49ers fan. Go.
I think John Lynch did I just got to say one thing for John Lynch.
Uh-huh.
In the words of DJ Khaled, you smart.
I mean, here's the thing.
He totally finessed the Chicago Bears yesterday.
So to be fair, none of us really know for sure what will be with the quarterback draft. Like, who knows if Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback in this draft? Who knows if Webb, the guy out of California, if he's going to be the best. Like, none of us really know. Fine. Like, Dak Prescott could have been the best player coming out of the draft last year. Like, none of us really know. But optics-wise, it looks basically like the Bears panicked. And you have John Lynch literally like a month or two into his job. In basically the first opportunity for him to actually do his job. Like, this is the first test that he had. Amazing. Like, fantastic. You basically, like, got a dude who you were going to take anyways in Thomas, and you got a pick later and extra picks. Like, watching it was just like, oh, the Bears have the number 2 overall pick. And it was funny watching the draft because you had the people, because I was watching NFL Network, not ESPN. I was watching the NFL Network, and you had Mayock and everybody else basically trying to figure out, like, oh, well, I wonder if they're going to take Thomas, or if they're going to take Adams or Mike Williams, or I wonder who they're going to take. And because they didn't think quarterback because, well, you had Mike Glennon, who you paid literally $15 million to per year. And then all of a sudden, Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback. And it was one of those things where it's just like, why? Like, it didn't really make any sense. Meanwhile, your Niners, for the first time in a little bit, congratulations to them.
Yeah, they had a really good draft last night. They're one of my biggest winners of the night, but I will discuss that later. As of right now, let's recap the top 10. So, Myles Garrett goes number 1. No surprise there.
Nope.
Mitchell Trubisky goes number 2, probably the biggest surprise of the night. Solomon Thomas goes to the San Francisco 49ers at number 3. Leonard Fournette goes number 4 to the Jaguars.
Do you like that pick? Do you like Fournette?
I do. I like him for that team. I think it was either going to be in Jacksonville or in Carolina.
Right.
Yeah. I really do think because, dude, Jacksonville they need to sell tickets, man.
But they need to sell tickets.
They need to sell tickets, and they need to get some excitement in this team. This team's not exciting as it was heading to. They're not exciting. Yeah, they got a lot of. I was actually kind of low key excited about this team last year, but Blake Bortles became Blake Bortles.
Yeah,
the real Blake Bortles. So he really stood up.
Right, because remember we were talking about this as the season was going on last year because through fantasy football or whatever else, if you watched Blake Bortles or if you had Blake Bortles, you weren't necessarily opposed to it because he was basically getting a lot of points for your team, but he was getting a lot of points in garbage time. Shout out Cuddy Nolan. And you basically had a thing where you didn't know if he was good or not. The next year, it was like, okay, no, he's not good. And instead, Fournette, he gets you at least some star power, right? He gets you somebody to, like, be a recognizable face. So worst case scenario, whether or not you think he's to be good or not, at least gives them something to like, show their fans of like, hey, this guy, you've heard of this guy. You remember him? He's great. We have him now. So that's at least nice.
Yeah, all right. And remember, this is the first time, well, not first time, but back-to-back years, a running back goes number 4. And who went number 4 last year? Ezekiel Elliott.
Yep. And it's kind of a copycat league because if Ezekiel Elliott only had like 500 yards rushing, like I don't think Fournette goes 4th overall. No. Like the fact that he was amazing as he was, it's like, okay, cool, now we have confidence in taking the running back high.
Yeah. So literally, Ezekiel Elliott changed the game. All right. Number 5, the Tennessee Titans. I really thought they would have traded out of this pick, but no, they didn't. They stood their ground and drafted Corey Davis out of Western Michigan. He was the first receiver taken in the draft. I thought this may have been a little high, but you never know. He may not have been there with their next pick. And I really do like their next pick, by the way. But yeah, Corey Davis out of Western Michigan goes to 5 and to Tennessee. Really great pick for the Titans there. Gives Marcus Mariota a viable weapon. A lot of scouts, a lot of analysts said that Corey Davis reminded them of Terrell Owens. And, I kind of do see those comparisons a little bit.
And, he played in a different kind of offense in Western Michigan. It's not necessarily the kind of like normal pro-style kind of offense. A little bit more, his numbers for the last 3 years have been phenomenal. So it's not like he doesn't have the talent to do it. It was just kind of not where you expected him to go. Especially if you're going to take a wide receiver, you would have figured like Mike Williams out of Clemson or something like that. So a little bit of like confusing, but at the same time, it's not like he's not worthy of being like a first-round pick.
And number 6, the Jets. Everyone thought, they're going to do Jets things.
Yeah.
But no, they actually made a really good pick in Jamal Adams out of LSU, the safety, probably the best safety in the draft. He could have easily went to be a number 2, number 3 pick. But no, he falls to the Jets. I really do like this pick for the Jets. Number 7, the San Diego Chargers of L.A., or I should say the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego, pick up Mike Williams out of Clemson. I do think that Chargers were going to either go – I thought they were going to go defense. I thought they were going to draft Malik Hooker or someone else. But no, they went Mike Williams to pair up with Keenan Allen. I kind of do like this. And remember, they're in L.A. now, so they got to produce numbers, offensive numbers. And remember, they're going to get a lot of production from Mike Williams. This is a really good tandem. This could be a really good tandem to watch next year.
Yeah, because you said like the Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen, the thing with him is he gets hurt a lot. So now you take a guy who we saw at Clemson be maybe, the best guy on the field, and somebody who Phillip Rivers kind of would love to have is just somebody that's like, okay, well, Keenan Allen gets hurt. Crap. Okay, so now we got to kind of start looking around and seeing who else they have. And for Mike Williams, we saw how good he is, and he can fit in right away. Like you said, they're going to be in Los Angeles, and whether or not anybody wants them in Los Angeles, that's a different story. But now they actually have some firepower offensively with Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers still there, Antonio Gates is on his last leg. You have people on the team that actually will get you excited offensively now, so that's at least something good for them going into, like I said, Los Angeles.
Yeah, and as for the final 3 picks in the top 10, the Carolina Panthers select Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. I love this pick. We had him in the mock draft.
Yeah,
going here.
I think everybody. That's the thing. That was a funny thing. Like everyone had him, and it was just kind of the thing where it's like, is he really going to be taken with like where everybody thinks he is? But nope, he gets taken in Carolina. Cam Newton now has a few different options to throw to. You got him. You got Greg Olsen. You got Kelvin Benjamin. You have people on the team who can help out Cam Newton. Basically, get the ball. Christian McCaffrey might not be the workhorse running back, but he's going to be. If we're going to kind of split this up racially, we can say, he can be Darren Sproles, right? He can be somebody that can get you both rushing yards and receiving yards. Also, we see him do punt returns, kick returns, stuff like that. And he is literally the stereotypical deceptive speed dude because if you watch him actually on tape, dude can juke you out of your shoes. Like, he's not just like someone who was like a Toby Gerhart where it was just like, a big hole opens up and he can run through that. No, he will break your ankles. Like, he's really, really good. Just you wouldn't expect it because, So, Carolina.
We had 2 running backs going to top 10. That I remember ever in the time that's happened. It hasn't happened in a while, actually.
Yeah, that's not something. I mean, you'll get the one, like you'll get the Ezekiel Elliott, you get the Adrian Peterson, you'll get people that get taken high, but you don't generally get two players. And you can debate whether or not McCaffrey's going to be a running back or receiver in the NFL.
It might be both.
Right. But the fact was you had two guys who were running backs in college taking really, really high in the draft. Like you said, top 10, which is kind of a rare thing to see nowadays, especially now that the running back isn't as valued as it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think the resurgence of running backs is making a comeback.
Yeah.
It's making a comeback. All right. For the final two picks, number 9 with the Cincinnati Bengals, this kind of surprised me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They drafted John Ross in Washington, the guy that broke the 40-yard combine record. Yeah, he goes to Cincinnati. So we're going to see John Ross, the speedster, go alongside with A.J. Green. So
yeah,
can make a really good combo there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they now with Cincinnati, because like you said, you're probably going to double team A.J. Green because, well, you should double team A.J. Green. If you don't, that's going to lead to other problems. But, you know, you have a situation now where he's there, Tyler Eifert's there as a tight end. You have options for Andy Dalton, right? Because for whatever you want to say if Andy Dalton's a good or bad quarterback or whatever, now he has so many tools. Like now he has a lot of options to do, and, you know, whatever John Ross is, good or bad, you know he's fast, and you know that he can be kind of a Deshaun Jackson-y kind of player where, you know, it's basically I'm going to run this 9 route and, you know, throw it as hard as you can. And, you know, I don't know necessarily anybody else on the team that'll be that kind of guy. You know, A.J. Green can do basically anything, but now you actually have some talent in Cincinnati that might, you know, get them back to the playoffs after missing it last year.
Yeah, I kind of like this offense, the way it looks on paper. So we'll see how John Ross plays out.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have him in the first round. I thought maybe he would have slid all the way into the second because of his size, you know, his injury concerns.
Exactly.
But, you know, Cincinnati, I guess they have a lot of faith in him, taking him that high.
Yeah.
All right, well, for the number 10 pick, we have our second quarterback taken. The Bills had this pick, but they traded it to the Kansas City Chiefs as they selected Patrick Mahomes, one of my favorite probably my favorite quarterback.
You loved him. Yeah,
my favorite quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, you talked about him a lot kind of for a month or two before
the
draft.
Yeah, I really do like what I'm seeing. I'm just saying, for anyone that don't know who he was beforehand, you want to watch his game versus Oklahoma. That game was amazing.
So his comp, a lot of times, you know, people say Brett Favre because he's got the gunslinger mentality, which not exactly the best comparison in the world because as good as Brett Favre was, he also did a lot of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And the easiest, you know, comparison.
He did some dumb stuff off the field in New York too, but
sure.
We're not going to talk about that.
He did that. Well, yeah. And also just, I mean, straight football-wise, like he, you know, obviously had a lot of talent, but his last two teams he was on in Minnesota and New Orleans, he literally threw an interception to kill their season. So, I mean, like, he would do that stuff like that. And the easiest comparable player to Brett Favre in the league right now, well, technically not in the league right now, would be like a Jay Cutler. And that's not the comparison that you want. Like, you want Brett Favre because he's a Hall of Famer, you know, retired as the number one passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, you know, of all time, too. But Mahomes, like, the one thing I do like about him going to Kansas City specifically is, so when Kansas City traded, right, when they announced, like, oh, Kansas City has traded with the Bills, like, you knew they were going to take a quarterback because you don't trade up like that to get an offensive lineman or, like, cornerback. That's not what you do. You do it to get a quarterback. And I thought it was going to be Watson. And I started to immediately feel bad for Alex Smith. Like, immediately I was like, oh, he got replaced again. That stinks. But with Mahomes, he's not going to play this year. You know, for as good as he might be, it's not going to be this year. He's going to be in a year or 2 years from now, which gives Alex Smith basically one or two more shots to basically take this good defense to the playoffs and possibly win a Super Bowl with them. And if it doesn't work after 2 years, then you take the guy that you drafted and groomed and everything else like that and kind of Aaron Rodgers him into the starting position.
Which is ironic because Alex Smith went before Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
So,
and he's comparable to Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers comparison.
Yeah. So, Alex Smith, I think his contract ends, I think, in 2 to 3 years.
So, you basically
after
you run the contract out and you hopefully have this quarterback that you drafted that you can do well. Because if it was Watson, like, he's day one starter. Like, he's going to be the starter if he were to gone to Kansas City to where Mahomes isn't. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds for both Alex Smith and maybe not Mahomes if he wants to be a starter, but at least you understand it from the team's perspective and from Alex Smith's perspective.
And speaking of Deshaun Watson, he went number 12 to the Texans, and
I love it.
I like that pick.
I love it so. Like,
he goes into a great situation.
Yeah.
He's in a weak division.
Yeah.
He can succeed right away.
Yeah. Like, last year, the closest thing I saw to this where it was just like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. Because, I mean, let's be honest. We don't know everybody in the draft. Like, we have a handful of people that we are aware of and that we think could be well or whatever. It's like that. But, like, if you ask us, this offensive lineman, oh, will he be good? Dude, I don't know. Like, maybe. But, like, at the same time, like, Watson we saw. Watson we knew. And we knew with the Texans you have a running back in place. You have a wide receiver in place. You have a tight end in place, who I've said enough things about. You have a defense in place that gets J.J. Watt now. The only hole you had was quarterback, and you literally took the guy who was the most ready to come in tomorrow and be your starter, leader guy, intangibles, whatever else, beat the closest thing we've seen to a pro defense in college, beat them in the national title game, beat the best coach maybe of all time in college, and now you're going to put him in the one hole of a team that could easily make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, so I like this for Deshaun Watson. It's going to be a very interesting AFC South.
Yeah, exactly.
We can see Andrew Luck versus Deshaun Watson. That's something I'm really looking forward to.
Dude, 3 of the quarterbacks in that division are really good.
Yeah, they are. We got Marcus Mariota.
Yep.
Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson in that division. So if Blake Bortles happens to improve, maybe we can see all 4 of them.
No, he's the black sheep of that division.
All right. Well, hopefully Leonard Fournette helps him out a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
All right. We're going to take our first break here, and when we return, we're going to discuss our winners and losers of the first round last night when we get back to the Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast. We talked about the top 10 picks in the draft last night. The first round concluded as well. We got rounds 2 and 3 going on tonight, and we got rounds 4 to 7 on Saturday. Saturday I cannot wait because I have the whole day off, so I'm just going to sit back and watch the rest of the draft.
Right.
So, because I'm not going to be able to watch today. And I wasn't able to watch the second half because I went to go see Chance the Rapper at the Golden One Center, which was a great show, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great show, by the way. So if any of you guys, are hip-hop fans and are fans of Chance and he's in your city, I think you should go watch him. He really inspired me. So, all right, well, we're going to get into our winners and losers here. And I have to start off. There's no bias here on my winners. I really do think they are the biggest winner tonight because they got 2 of the top 5 guys in the draft. That's the San Francisco 49ers. They got Solomon Thomas, who I kind of expected them to get. But the fact that they got more picks from him, those guys can turn into legitimate starters, which is pretty big. And they traded back into the first round at 31 with the Seahawks, a division rival, by the way, to select Reuben Foster, probably the best linebacker in the draft. He drew a lot of comparisons to Patrick Willis in college. And I don't know. I think the 49ers might have the replacement for Patrick Willis there. The fact that they have Bowman with Reuben Foster, who he may not play because, he has the shoulder issues and all that. And teams did say that he might need a second surgery, but they're not going to win next year anyway, so It's fine. So they got Solomon Thomas, they got DeForest Buckner last year, then the year before that, Eric Armstead. They got Reuben Foster, NaVorro Bowman. This could be a really great defense. And remember, NaVorro Bowman may not be NaVorro Bowman ever again because he has injuries. So I do love this pick.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. Yes, I understand you're a San Francisco 49ers fan. The Niners basically did the best thing they could have possibly done. They went down a pick. They got extra picks. They used those picks to get basically 2 of the top 3 guys that they wanted because maybe you get Myles Garrett, maybe you don't. But then also you get Solomon Thomas, and then also you get Reuben Foster. You get people who basically were top 10 picks, right? Reuben Foster dropped a little bit because of, the character concerns of, basically running through the combine, basically saying, I'm great, do you know who I am? Also diluted sample, also the shoulder stuff. So he fell all the way almost out of the first round. But assuming he's healthy and all of this stuff, quote-unquote, humbled him or whatever you want to say, assuming he's going to be, right, he's really, really, really stupidly talented. And you get him and you get Solomon Thomas. And the other thing is, okay, worst case scenario, right? Let's just say worst case scenario. Let's say that Reuben Foster, his shoulders don't go well. He doesn't play well. He's, a bust. Let's say Solomon Thomas is just okay as a defensive player, right? Not great, not he's bad, but he's fine. What you basically did for the next, call it year and a half, is we're stopping with these jokes about John Lynch. That's it.
Yeah,
we're not doing that anymore.
Honestly, though, being a 49ers fan, I was very skeptical of the hiring of John Lynch.
Right.
I was like, they gave him a 6-year contract. Oh, come on, typical Jay York move.
Right.
No, man. He really finessed the Chicago Bears yesterday, and he literally made a deal with the division rival to get someone that can really impact that division for years to come and that defense.
Yeah, and he who knows? Maybe after he starts making dumb move after dumb move after dumb move, maybe.
Hopefully that's turned to another Alden Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, he like I said, for the next year, right? We're done with these John Lynch jokes because now we kind of transition into a different team that we make the jokes for. But for right now, John Lynch, worst case scenario, it's okay, cool. So you seem like you know what you're doing. Cool, awesome. We're not going to worry about this anymore. And that, if nothing else, if worst case scenario, you basically now have a GM that you all feel confident about, that means as much as anything else because Lord knows you didn't do that for the guy before, for Balky.
No.
Balky, we, you can say you don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy, right? You don't want to be the guy that was amazing and now you have to be his replacement. But you wanted to be Balky's replacement because God knows for all the talent he accumulated back in 2010. So it all kind of, reversed over the last year or two. And now you have a situation where you have a couple of talented players. You have, like I said, they're not going to win next year. It's not like they're going to make the playoffs next year. They're going to stink. They still don't have a quarterback. So you basically
never know. I don't think they're done yet, man. They may
not be done, but you also have the situation where you could basically do what the Cleveland Browns did and basically say hey, we're going to take everybody else around the quarterback. We're going to take some defensive players. We're going to take some offensive players, but we're just going to basically try and fill every puzzle piece except for the one that's the quarterback. And speaking of that, the next team, as far as the draft day wins, the Browns. We can make all the jokes about the Browns. Lord knows you and I have made enough jokes about the Browns.
I always used to say the Browns keep Browning.
Right. But, I mean,
I can't say it anymore, man.
Well, you can still say it, just not for this draft.
Yeah.
The draft, you can't say it because they got Myles Garrett, who everyone was just take him, please take him. As soon as you can, take him. Oh, gosh,
please take him, please.
And then the next pick, you took a guy who basically was the Heisman Trophy high candidate for most of last season in Jabril Peppers. And then the third one, you got a tight end, right? Maybe he's not O.J. Howard, who everybody seemed to think was the number one tight end in the draft. That's fine. But that's not to also say that you didn't get a guy who's not super talented, right? Like, you can say whatever you want about maybe O.J. Howard was the best tight end in the draft, but at the same time, if you just look around and you say, okay, now they have a wide receiver, right, in, what's his name?
Corey Coleman.
Corey Coleman. And, now looking through it, you have people in the defense, and not only that, but now you also have someone in Njoku at the tight end. You're starting to build everything around the quarterback, and fine, Brock Osweiler is not going to be your quarterback, but like with the Niners, you're not going to win next year. You're not going to the playoffs, so you might as well do what the Houston Texans did and basically surround everybody except for the quarterback. So, like, the Browns, who knows, maybe next year, they screw it up in the draft, or maybe this season they screw it up. But for right now, like, congratulations, good job.
Yeah, they really made some really great picks yesterday. I do like the Jabril Peppers pick. I had him going to the Cowboys, who got Taco Charlton, by the way. And I think the biggest winner, actually, I just want to say something before that. So the Browns get 3 good players that can help them next year, but they're going with Cody Kessler as a quarterback. So I do think that makes them a loser at some point. But you know what, though? I think Hugh Jackson knows his team is not ready to win right now. I think John Lynch knows his team is not ready to win right now. So I do think that they're playing for 2018 as of right now.
So here's the thing. The Browns did something that people always say that's like an NBA move, right, where they basically took on a big salary to basically help out in other ways, right? It was one of the things that, like, NFL teams didn't understand, like, well, why are you taking Brock Osweiler? Like, he's not a good quarterback. Why do you want him? It's like, that's not the point. We basically want to do other stuff around it to, help out the team, salary dump, everything else like that. One thing we always say with the NBA is you don't want to be in the middle. You either want to be a title contender or you want to be crap. The Browns, if they start Cody Kessler, they're basically, being the Sixers, right? They're basically a team that's basically like, okay, we're going to surround everything except the quarterback, and because the quarterback's so bad, we're going to lose a lot of games. And if we lose a lot of games, then we get a high draft pick, and we can basically run this back next year with a high draft pick and take, right now, one of the 3 quarterbacks we think will be good, either in Darnold, Rosen, or Browning. And who knows, maybe there's some random quarterback at, Montana that's really good. There's always that random school quarterback that,
Oh, by the way, the dude from Wyoming, I think his name's Josh Allen. He's projected to be one of those guys, too.
Bam, right there, Wyoming. Close enough. Like, there's going to be the quarterback that, like, shoots up, that's in a random school, like, the Carson Wentz, the Joe Flacco kind of thing like that just shoots up. And the Browns can be bad, and then next year they can go after him. Like, this makes a lot of sense for the Browns. Like I said, maybe they screw it up next year, but for right now, totally cool, totally works, and, like, I see what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think the biggest winner from last night is not a team, but is a player. And we talked about this last night. Before we did the show. That's how you say his name? Takaris McKinley at UCLA.
He had a day.
He got drafted to the Atlanta Falcons at 26, and they actually traded up from the Seahawks to get him. Man, he carried a pitcher, and it's not just any ordinary pitcher. No, it is a framed, I don't know the size, but it is a huge pitcher. It's not pocket size, guys. It's the type of pitcher they hang up at your house.
Mm-hmm.
He carried a photo of his grandma. Excuse me. And he really thanked his grandma, and he was crying, after this pick. And, he even threw an F-bomb in there.
He did.
And Deion Sanders was like, you know what? I like your passion, but was calming down a little bit.
Deion Sanders that came into the draft in 1989 with like 17 gold chains. Deion. But cool. Like, I think, you're a professional now. You can't swear on TV. I get it. But yeah, man, like he, obviously being drafted is a big emotional, release for you, right? Because it's something you've wanted for a long time and you finally are able to do it. And he just let all of his emotions out, man. Like, he was just like everything that he had just was like just spilling out. And yeah, he dropped an F-bomb. He's also dropped another bomb, but like, whatever you can say, you can bleep it out. Goddamn, like he said stuff like that. So, he swore a couple of times, but the second one was just like, oh, there it is. There's the F-bomb. That's the one that the FCC is going to look at sideways. He said, find me later, which maybe the NFL will, maybe the NFL won't. He doesn't have any money right now. He's a college athlete, and you don't pay people in college, at least you're not supposed to. And whatever, he got paid because he got drafted, but he doesn't have that money yet. But yeah, he had a full day. Congratulations to him for, being the first round pick, going to a, Super Bowl contender in the Atlanta Falcons. Congratulations to him. All right. Now let's get some jokes.
All right, let's do it.
Chicago. Why? Here's the thing. Hold on.
Yeah,
okay, we can talk about.
I don't understand what they did yesterday.
We can talk about the Niners doing what they did, and basically the thing we used was they fleeced him, or they, did the thing where they totally pulled the wool over their eyes, or whatever. We talk about the Browns doing good. We talk about the Jets, basically teams we thought would, fall on their face, doing good things. The Bears. Okay, forget about the fact that we don't know if Myles Garrett, would have been there at number 2 for them. We don't know if they, were just panicked. We don't know if, whatever happened. We don't know if Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the best quarterback in the draft and someone that's going to be a Hall of Famer, going forward. You already had a quarterback who you paid $15 million to, right? You already had Mike Glennon, who, whether or not you think he's good or not, because there is language in the contract that basically says after this year, if they want to cut him or, get rid of him, they can. So fine. $15 million right now is what you're paying him. Plus, for what, number 2 overall pick? I don't know what that's going to be, but that's going to be more than $5-10 million for something that high. You're going to get right now, Google what the number 2 overall pick got last year, because it was a quarterback too in Carson Wentz. So see what his contract was. But you did that, and now, like I said, John Lynch, no more jokes for you. You're good. Everything's fine. We're going to move on from this. But now all of our jokes just totally pivot to Chicago.
All right. Well, Carson Wentz, his contract, according to Spot Track,
right,
he signed a 4-year, $26 million deal.
Okay, so a little over $6 million.
Because last year his base salary was $450,000, but there was a lot of bonuses and all that. This year he's set to make over $1 million, 1.6, and then in 2018 2.8, and then 2019 4.4 million.
Okay,
so it increases up. Yeah.
Okay, so there's incentives in there, so it's base salary. Okay, so I see what you're doing. Okay, so yeah, they paid. Excuse me.
The signing bonus is $17 million. So
$17 million. Okay, so $17 million, 4 years, $17 million. Okay, cool. So he's basically going to be, okay, let's just kind of say a couple $1 million. Let's say $2 or $3 million you're going to pay to a quarterback. So you're going to have somewhere around $20 million you're going to devote straight to the quarterback position, whose name is not Aaron Rodgers, whose name is not Ben Roethlisberger, whose name isn't Manning, Brady, anybody like that, Breeze. No. And it's just funny because no one would have thought they would have done that. You would have thought that the Jets might have done that. You thought the Browns might have done that. But you definitely didn't think that it was going to be the Chicago Bears moving up 1 pick, giving up 3 other draft picks, including a first-round pick, to basically get a guy who might have been available to them in the very next pick. And, yeah, we got some jokes now.
Yeah. That's one trade I still can't fathom, man. And
do you have another quote-unquote loser from the first round?
I will have to – well, I wouldn't say loser, but I just wanted to point out a couple of do you consider the Raiders being a loser in the draft? They drafted a guy named Garen Conley who is involved in a lot of sexual assault allegations right now. There's a lot of jokes on that on Facebook. I'm telling you that right now.
The thing is with that, it's hard to say because...
Yeah, to be fair, we don't know yet.
Yeah, because Mixon, we saw. Mixon, we see the video. Okay, cool. You did that. Now you need to basically atone for what you did, right? We basically need, as a collective, to feel good about taking you, right? If you come and you're all contrite and say, I'm sorry, I won't ever do this again. I've learned from it. I've gone to these, women's shelters, whatever else like that. We can rationalize in our head taking Joe Mixon, right? It's like it was a long time ago. He's gotten better. He's not the same guy. We can rationalize all these things. For Oakland, there's no, you don't know, which makes it maybe worse because if this is true, GM gets fired. Because you can't take that dude in the first round. You can't take that dude, period, if that's actually the case. So if it turns out to be that she is telling the truth, then you have a big problem on your hands because then all of a sudden the morality stuff comes, full effect. If he didn't do it, then you get a talented guy. So I'm not going to say winner or loser. That's just like up in the air. Who knows? Because it literally is he said, she said. And that's really hard to kind of negotiate and figure out at this point.
Yeah, and we don't know. We have to wait till the legal process plays out. But as of now, I think from a football standpoint, the Raiders got a really good cover corner.
Sure.
I have to go with the Giants as a loser. They got Evan Ingram at 23 when David Njoku was still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that pick at all. I think Ingram is a good tight end. I just think Njoku is a better talent. I do love what the Titans did. They got their receiver in Corey Davis, and then they got Adoree Jackson at 18.
Right.
One of my favorite players in this draft. He was one of my favorite players to watch last year in college. He had a lot of comparisons to excuse me, I got to clear my throat. You want to go on?
Well, no, the thing is with you good? So, no, the thing with both Tennessee and the Giants, right, it's just like how you feel about certain guys thing, right? It's, whether or not you liked Njoku better than Ingram or whether or not you liked, say, Mike Williams, better than, I can't even think of it, than Davis, right? It's just like a preference thing at that point. And it's kind of like what the Niners did and the Raiders did back in, 2008 or whatever it was when you had Crabtree and you had Hayward Bay. People knew who Crabtree was. You wanted to get Crabtree. Hayward Bay was taken. Oh, my God, it's a terrible pick. Years later, not that much difference. Maybe Crabtree's a little bit better, but it's not like night and day where one guy was so much better. This becomes, whether it's Mike Williams or Davis or whether, Ingram or Njoku, it just becomes who you prefer. And clearly the Titans preferred Davis over both Mike Williams and John Ross, and they preferred, Ingram over Njoku. So that all of a sudden just becomes who you prefer. I'm not going to say that's good or bad. That's just what they liked at the time.
Oh, I do want to oh, my God, I'm sick. I do want to point out number 20, Garrett Bowles. Mm-hmm. He was cut 5 times before joining Utah. And so, he's heading to a great locker room, so hopefully that helps out.
Right.
And then the Buccaneers actually drafted O.J. Howard. We had that in their mock draft.
Right. Yeah. It was one of those things where it was just like you give some, help to – I can't think of his name right now. Why can't I think of the quarterback of the stupid Buccaneers? Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
You give Jameis, some help at this point, right? You give him somebody that he can go to because, now they got Deshaun Jackson. My brain is not working right now. And you have Mike Evans, and now you give him a tight end who now you basically, give him all these options on offense. You help out your quarterback who, number 1 overall pick. You do something that like a lot of people thought would happen actually happened, and it totally makes sense and it's totally good, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, and so we're gonna take our last break, and when we return, hopefully my voice sounds a lot better. But we're gonna discuss the top players remaining in this year's draft. So stay tuned to the Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast. And with the first round in the books and rounds 2 to 3 happening tonight, we're going to discuss the best players available for round 2. And there are a lot of names. Names that we thought would have been taken in the first round.
Right.
Most notably, Forrest Lamp is still there. Mm-hmm. I thought he would have went to your Dolphins.
Yeah.
I thought he would have.
It would have made sense for them to basically try and shore up their offensive line, but to be fair, they've taken that a lot recently, so they basically decided to take a defensive end that could be the replacement for Cameron Wake, so I understand it.
Yeah, and then, of course, we got to talk about Dalvin Cook.
He's still there.
Still there.
Joe Mixon.
Well, we kind of expected that.
Right.
Cam Robinson is still there. I thought he would have went in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he would have been there. We had Malik McDowell on our mock draft in the first round. He's still available. And we also, Joe Mixon, you did mention that already. But yeah, man, there's so many other players left. We got Kevin King available there in Washington. Sidney Jones, who he probably won't get drafted till Saturday.
You have certain situations now with teams, right? Because now you got Green Bay with the first overall pick in the second round, right? And we know Green Bay doesn't necessarily go after like big, high-profile players, right? They generally kind of draft like a lineman, or they draft some person out of like a random school or whatever, and whether it works out or not, it's not generally like a splash move. We have a friend that's here, Ben, who is a Green Bay Packers fan, who seems to really think that with the first pick, they're going to take Joe Mixon. And if that's the case, I mean, Aaron Rodgers basically came out after the season, after he basically did all he could to win them the games. Basically, like the press conference was like, look, man, I need talent. Like, I need some players here. Nothing against the people that we have, but like, I need some people. And whether it's Joe Mixon or if it's Dalvin Cook, like, they need a running back, because you know who their starting running back is next year? Ocho.
Yeah, Ocho, Christine Michael.
Yeah. Both of them. Not exactly the best as far as running backs go. Now, in the new NFL, do you need to have the workhorse running back? Maybe not. But also, you can't take Ty Montgomery, who, number 88, Ocho, who was a wide receiver, and make him now your starting running back. That's not how that really works out. And Christine Michael was cut by the Seahawks. He's not that good. So you need somebody to be that guy. Or go with Lamp and basically say, like, okay, Aaron Rodgers, we're going to protect you to make sure that you actually have time. Either way, they got to do something to basically, help out Aaron Rodgers, because as great as he is, he's been doing it now for about a decade, and you can only do this for so long until basically you're not that guy anymore. Or even if you are still kind of that guy, he's kind of one of the guys that relies a lot on his athleticism to be able to move around, and that tends to stop after a certain amount of time. So maybe Aaron Rodgers is what he isn't going to be that anymore. So get people that can actually help him out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers get a running back. I think that's their major need. They weren't interested in Adrian Peterson, which is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah.
But, moving on to quarterbacks, there's still some notable names available. We got Davis Webb, who was, rumored to be a first-round pick, but I didn't think that was going to be likely. Davis Webb at Cal, he is still there. He is definitely one of the top 5 quarterbacks, but that's not saying a lot.
Right.
And then we got Deshaun Kaiser, who I think will be the first quarterback taken of the second round. Definitely honestly, I think whoever drafts one of these two guys, I think they're going to be looked at as a project.
Sure.
Yeah. And so right now, who has the first pick? The Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Dalvin Cook will be the first pick in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
And if Joe Mixon gets drafted before Dalvin Cook, I will be really surprised.
Yeah, same here. Like, if that's the case, because it's not that Joe Mixon isn't talented. Like, on tape, he's clearly one of the most talented running backs they have in this draft. It's just the optics of it, basically. And we talked about with Oakland, the player that they took, you have the situation where, I mean, you have to explain this to your fans, right, on a very different scale. When Michael Vick, got out of prison, he basically got signed by the Eagles. And you had to basically atone for that. You had to basically, look at the fans and be like, look, I understand what you're saying. I understand all that stuff like that, but also, give this guy a chance. And you're going to have to basically sell that to whatever team drafts Joe Mixon, whether that is, Green Bay, or maybe that's Seattle with the next pick, or, the Jets or something like that. Like, you're going to have to explain this to your fan base of, like, look, I understand all of your concerns. Also, we think he's a different dude and give him a chance. And if he gets drafted in 33rd overall pick, good job for the Packers. Just understand that there's going to be a lot of bile and, a lot of stuff happening around that when you do it.
And one of my favorite players left, excuse me, Obi Melifonwu is still available. Remember, this guy absolutely he put on a show at the Combine, probably the second best Combine after Myles Garrett.
Right.
He had a 4.440, 44-inch vertical jump, and 11.9-inch broad jump. I don't think I said that right, but you know what I mean.
That's a lot.
But yeah, Obi Melifonwu, I think he can be a really great. I think he was a safety. Yeah, he could be a really great defensive back. I'm actually kind of hoping, low key, the Niners select him.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I want them to draft everybody.
You want to draft? Yeah. I mean, they did a good job yesterday, so who knows? Maybe John Lynch can come back and fleece another team. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. All right, well, that's going to conclude our show today. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Will be back on Monday, recapping round 2 through 7. So we got a lot to talk about on Monday. You will be back on Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay. You got anything else to tell the good listeners, Anthony?
No, I had a lot of fun with the draft. I had a lot of fun watching. Me being a Dolphins fan, I didn't know how it was going to go, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of chaos in some spots, but no, it was a lot of fun watching the draft.
All right. Well, we have a lot to discuss over the weekend. I forgot to say shout out to Alex for coming on the 1-year anniversary show yesterday. Man. We have a lot to discuss on Monday, so you guys come back. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. Hopefully my voice gets better next week, so see you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.